Welcome to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kibler, your net profit CFO, helping business owners like you grow their net profit one episode at a time. And now your host, Ryan Kibler.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Net Profit Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Kibler, the Net Profit CFO. And today I've got a very special guest with me. I have Michael Burke with me, also known as Coach Mike. I am very excited to dive in with him today and very excited to get to his background. He really helps business owners unlock their full potential. And from our first couple of conversations that I have with Coach Mike, I could tell the value and the service that he brings is very, very interesting to me, brings a lot of value. And so I am very excited to have Coach Mike here. Mike, thank you for taking the time and doing the show.
Thanks, Ryan. Same right back at you. This is fascinating what you do and just love serving the business community and can't wait to dig into today's topic.
For sure. So I don't want to spend the time on it, but just take a couple minutes. I mean, I gave you a short intro. We know that you unlock human potential. I want to give you an opportunity, though. Share a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. I was born with cystic fibrosis and given 5 years to live. And as I became aware of that and that there were no surviving adults and that stuck in my mind. And the circumstances really started affecting the way I made decisions. I was a happy kid. I had a lot of friends, like I was engaged in life. But when it came time to making big decisions, I had this circumstance influencing my decisions. And so as I started having some success in the business world and living longer beyond all the expectations, I really started hearing those negative assumptions about life with cystic fibrosis. And I didn't want my life directed by those. I didn't have any tools. I didn't know, and generational thing, therapy really wasn't encouraged in my generation. So I just did a bunch of self-discovery. And I just started learning how to command my mind where I wanted it to go instead of these old assumptions. And my life just exploded in positive ways. So my life brought me to being a coach for others. And once you learn something life-changing, you want others to learn it. At least that's the way I am. So I just started talking about it, and that eventually led to coaching.
Very cool. So, yeah, I mean, and as we get into this conversation here, I mean, it's going to be very apparent how that background really serves you today and really how, you're really, really an expert at what you do and you've been doing it since childhood, right? And so, you've been doing it many, many years, right? So I want to dive in and start with one of the things that I think is just brilliant and amazing and something that's happened to me. And I want to talk about enlightening moments. So if you're a business owner, you probably, sometimes some of your best ideas might come in the shower, right? For me, it's driving across country, no phone, just in my car, time for me to think. And it's amazing how you let the brain kind of go to work and something that's been stumping you for hours, you can get an answer to in minutes, right? And, and I've shared that with you. I've had that experience personally, but you help business owners do that almost on demand. So talk a little bit about that and how that works and how you do it, I guess.
Yeah. So I call that, it's not just me, but my profession, the profession of coaching, we call that insight coaching. And yeah, if we're in the shower, our brain's always thinking. It never stops. And if we've got a seed of something, our brain percolates on it. And eventually in moments of clarity, like in the shower, driving the car, me, it's on the bicycle, when my mind is just free to percolate.
Yep.
We'll get the aha, the insight. But I can't just stop in the middle of the day and go ride my bike for a couple hours.
Sure.
You can't just go drive out to the country.
Yep.
And we can't take a shower in the middle of the day, right?
Not all the time.
So, but more to the point, when we're hard thinking on stuff, That's sometimes a block. Think about it. The ideas come when our brain's percolating in the shower just randomly. So what I do is through the the coaching practice, the practice of coaching, it's a skilled conversation where I pull those insights out of the brain. So there's a methodology to that, and I'm highly trained in it, but I also understand the brain. Like this, it's just my nature to understand how the mind works. And then I built a bunch of education around that basic inclination. So in say a 45-minute conversation, you're trying to figure out a problem and that solution's been eluding you. We can generally pull that out, get the insight, and then the other half of the conversation is gaining clarity around the insight rapidly.
Yep. Yeah. And now if you're a business owner and you're listening to this, right? Like being able to solve a problem that's really, really difficult almost instantly. I won't say instantly, but almost instantly. Pretty rapid, pretty on demand. I'm sure your mind can kind of start to imagine the benefits that come on the backside of being able to do this. But Mike, I want to give you an opportunity. I mean, talk about that a little bit and some of the experiences you've had as you've coached business owners.
Yeah, something that comes to mind right away, and it's like one of the most practical things is getting a product to market faster.
Yeah.
Like as you're thinking about either a product or service, like how can we offer this? And, let's get some clarity around how to build it. You can accelerate that thought process, the pros, the cons. And then also what we're doing is we're surfacing the mental blocks to that implementation. I took a vision class from one of the preeminent psychologists really in the world. And it was asking, get your vision big, stretch, stretch, stretch. And we were stretching what we thought was possible, and it's uncomfortable because the brain immediately starts taking things back.
Yeah.
I want to make this much money or have this much influence in the world. And then your brain says, well, there's this roadblock and that roadblock and the other roadblock. So if you can get rid of those mental roadblocks and truly see the opportunity and the potential barriers clearly, you'll get there quicker.
Yeah.
So we get the clarity of thought and insight and then reduce the mental barriers and see the real barriers for what they are.
For sure.
So that accelerates like a product delivery or service delivery, but also just solving problems. Our brain just has this great way of seeing what's wrong, and it's so good at that.
Yes.
Right? We don't need help to see what's wrong. Can we agree to that?
Yes, for sure.
What can be a little more difficult is seeing what's possible. Within the challenge, within the chaos, can I see through that to what's possible? And so we problem solve more quickly, more clearly. And then once we got either the vision set or the problem solving is clear, then we can persist in our execution because we've either eliminated or spotted how the mind will get in the way with persistent, consistent execution.
Yeah. Love that.
So that can help. I know that's a more general kind of answer, but I think the audience can say like, oh, if I could solve problems quicker with more clarity and then stick with the execution of strategy, that applies to a lot of things.
For sure. And, side benefit that I think is huge is way less stress, right? I think our brains cause us stress when they put roadblocks in the way. So way less stress as a business owner.
Yeah. That's one of the things that goes right along with the insight coaching is the stress is significantly reduced. Now, the brain science of it is stress comes from a very specific region of your brain. That part of your brain is designed to see what's wrong. And of course, then it's stressful because you're seeing what's wrong.
Yeah.
So what the coaching does is it through the coaching, the guided conversation, you end up changing the part of the brain you're using. So you move away from that fear, what's wrong center of your brain to the possibilities region of your brain. The amygdala is like this old part of our brain. It's real instinctual. It sees what's wrong. And your middle prefrontal cortex sees what's possible.
Yeah.
Like quite literally, when you're envisioning the future, the middle prefrontal cortex is lighting up with activity. And we can see it. Live imaging.
Got it. Very cool.
Coaching makes that switch happen.
Yeah. And, again, I love what you do because our brains have been trained for so long, right? Find the blocks that are going to be in our way, probably play things a little bit conservative, stay away from danger, right? And, shifting and getting to that frontal cortex, takes work, and, it's got to be a habit that you develop, I would imagine too. And so I love the work that you do. And I know that you structure things, that you work with people, kind of like on an ongoing basis, for blocks of time, but then on an ongoing basis if they need to, because I'm sure that like developing that habit of kind of living in your frontal cortex, I'll say, takes time.
It does. So, the coaching is one thing, but years ago, I saw this pattern develop. We'd have this coaching call and a client would get the aha, they would get the insight. And then I always follow up and I'd say, hey, how's that insight sticking with you? And they would so often say, well, what did we talk about? I was like, you said it was life-changing. So what I recognized was it's just more brain activity. We're getting so much input into our brain, so much information we're trying to figure out, that these insights, these really important things, fade from our memory. So just a few years ago, in 2014, a book was written called Positive Intelligence. And then 4 years ago, the creator Shirzad Chamine made a program out of it. And it's called mental fitness. So essentially what it does is it retrains the brain. So when you get the insight with training, like building mental muscles, that insight lodges into your memory. So you move forward without the backsliding because that aha is now in your memory.
Right.
It's a mental muscle.
Yeah. And it's not removed by like, oh no, that won't work, and blockers in your brain. It's kind of, as you said, it's stuck there, gets put in.
We do both. We get the aha, we get the inspiration, and then the mental fitness program also makes sure that those blocks don't take it away. They're going to occur. Like, it's just brain science. So the brain's going to say, oh, I see the danger. Oh, I feel fear about it. But what we teach folks is how to hear that, how to recognize those thoughts so they don't grab the decision and they don't affect you moving forward like boldly. So they're going to happen. We just teach people what to do with those, to challenge the thoughts, and then use this part of your brain that is built, it is designed to solve super complex problems.
For sure.
It's already in there. We just teach people how to use it.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the process on unlocking human potential. Like I said that in the intro, and you really help people get unstuck and using their own brain, using their own knowledge and expertise already.
Yes. When I speak to audiences, the first thing I say is no matter what's going on in your business, no matter what's going on in life, you already have what it takes to break through. It's already in your brain. Everything we need is up here. Doesn't mean we already have the answers, but what it takes to get the answers is already in here. And we just need to access it and access it as quickly as possible. That's the difference.
Sure. Yeah.
So think about it, Ryan. If you think about it, if I have these mental blocks and I reduce them, Look at the potential gap that happened. Then at the same time, we're also teaching people their inner strengths, their inner resources. So you get a larger potential gap. So this is why these teams and individuals go from underperforming to just breaking through ceilings. And I think a cover of the book says only 20% of individuals and teams fulfill their full potential.
Wow.
This is why. Because they haven't reduced the sabotage and elevated their inner resources.
Wow. Yeah. I think about that sometimes. I think about, you talk about teams, and I think about how many good ideas are killed in groups because we can't get over the mental blocks.
Yes.
Right? Like how many inventions are out there that exist that we don't know about that have already been killed in a room, right? And or what, like I'm probably going to, trigger a nerve here with somebody like, oh, I was in a room and I wanted to invent this thing and we didn't do it. We killed it. And then somebody else came out with it and it exploded and took off. Right.
Yep. That happens every day.
Yeah.
We call that a saboteur contagion. So we're in a brainstorming session, and let's just say my little negative, fearful voice says something. Well, then the whole energy of the room lowers. Just by me saying, oh, no, that won't work. Everyone's like, well, okay, guess it won't work. So that spreads. And if you're a leader, the senior leader says something like that. I have a friend, he's a EOS implementer out of California. He calls it a swoop and poop. So, right. And it really happens with the leader because the leader has so much influence over us. So I come in with what I think is a cool idea, or at least something to explore. Leader says no, like a seagull, like swoops and poops on the idea. And then it kind of kills the mojo in the room. We teach a way to not do the swoop and poop. And I'm not being judgmental because I've done it. We've all done it.
Yep.
We teach a language that engages this middle prefrontal cortex for the whole room. So you get a really cool upward cycle of thinking and doing.
Yep. And I could definitely see how if everyone's not on the same page and you don't have that language, right? I mean, again, going back to mental blocks, danger, being conservative, right? You've got that, one or two people in the room that act in that way, right? And that completely leads back to that stat you gave a few minutes ago of only 20% of teams achieve their full potential, right? I can definitely see that if you don't have that language, you don't have that training, you can't create that opportunity for everybody to be in their frontal cortex and create possibilities.
Yeah. And listen, I always lean to the positive because it's a bit of my nature. Like there's some folks that are naturally optimistic, some a little pessimistic. I do fall on that optimistic side, but that doesn't always mean it's great too. We need that part of our brain that says, well, let's not be reckless.
Yeah.
We need to see the pitfalls. And I'm not good at seeing pitfalls. In my marriage, my wife is so good, but she does it. She sees the pitfalls with her prefrontal cortex. So instead of sabotaging my energy and ideas, she's doing it in a way that keeps me from hitting the pitfall. Hey, Mike, and this is how she would communicate it. Oh, Mike, I love the idea of that. I'm thinking about some ways that might get in our way. Let's eliminate those.
Yeah.
Now my energy is excited because I don't see the pitfalls as clearly as she does. She's just brought great value to my vision. And there's a different word for it. It's called forethought. She foresees the pitfalls in a positive way, which then energizes myself and the team.
Yeah. I love that language around it of let's eliminate this so it doesn't, kind of wreck our plan or ruin our plan. Let's build a plan to avoid the pitfalls so that we can achieve what we want, what we're setting out to achieve. I love the language and the outlook on that. And I think when we put things under that lens compared to just sitting back and saying, well, that won't work because of this, right? Completely different. Like, even as we say that, if you're listening to this on audio, how do you receive that, right? And completely different energy, completely different. I mean, they're different words, different language, but just the way that it feels when you receive that is night and day.
Mm-hmm. Think about just the tone of voice in the same words. Let's see if I can think of some same words. How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
Same words, one sabotages, one fuels. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? That's the difference between your amygdala and your middle prefrontal cortex.
Yeah. I hope as you're listening to this, listeners out there, I'm hoping that you're really getting and really seeing, the potentials and the reason why business owners do seek out Coach Mike to come in and work in their organization, because helping your not only you as an individual, but also your team achieve the potentials that they're capable of can be night and day in your business. And, again, I wanted to bring Coach Mike on the podcast because he really changes organizations and the way that they think. And that changes stress levels, changes culture, changes the business in total. And I think things like that can also really impact business failure rate and keeping businesses from failure. And so, again, really, really appreciate the work that you do, Coach Mike. Really, really appreciate it for sure. So I want to talk about and kind of dive into a little bit. I mean, share a little bit about your structure, what it looks like to kind of work with you and how long of a period that looks like, and how you can get started with somebody so that my audience can kind of get that feel a little bit.
Yeah. So, I folks will say have some frustrations with the business or the team. Make me feel a little stuck, and they know more is possible, but they're just not quite sure what's holding them back. So that's usually when I'll get a call. I have a bit of a short attention span, like most adults. So I do sprints. I call them coaching sprints. And I use this positive intelligence tool as a foundational tool because it really accelerates things. And it's a 7-week program. So I have other tools and I use those tools, but this one's foundational because it's root cause. It's working with the brain. We actually retrain the brain. We retrain your brain like a muscle.
Yep.
And so that's 7 weeks, generally 1 call a week. So I think also what I like about it, it's a little mix of technology and coaching. So there's an app, a phone app. And the creator of this program, Shazad Shameen, he's in the app. So you got a coach in your phone. And he's delivering some content each week. And then we have a coaching call that week. And I'm not regurgitating the information. He is so clear, so clear. We're applying. Because applying, just because you have the information, you might not quite know how to apply it. So in the coaching call, boom, what are the challenges you're facing? How do we apply the information? So that's how we get these accelerated results. And then, so in those coaching calls, we're doing the insight thing. Let's get the insight. At the same time, we're running mental fitness. So it lodges in the memory. All right. So we run those parallel. So we get more accelerated, deeper, lasting results. So that's a 7-week sprint, technology aided, coach guided. And then we do a little assessment. Hey, how are we doing? And many, many times clients will say, gosh, Mike, this has been amazing. We're good. Other times I'll say, boy, we got some ongoing challenges. Let's do another sprint. So we do a sprint of, say, like 7 more calls. And Ryan, what I found is early in my coaching career, everyone was saying, oh, do a 1 year. You want a 1-year engagement. That's really successful. And I was like, well, for some, maybe. How about we keep their attention with sprints? And what I found is people were way more engaged if they saw a beginning and an end that seemed really manageable. And then my wife is an IT professional, and I got this term sprint from how they develop software. They do a sprint, then they check in with the client, make adjustments. Then they do another sprint, check in with the client, make adjustments, instead of this long thing. And for adults, we do have limited attention span. We've got so much going on, so many competing priorities. The sprints just are super helpful.
Yeah. Love that.
Does that answer the question?
For sure. Love that. Big, and, I look at it as, you can have a really big impact in a short time frame. And, this is going to come out middle of July. Think about how fast your summers went by. Think about how fast that has gone, right? When you're listening to this and this comes out, it probably felt like we just had Memorial Day yesterday, right? Which would have been end of May, right? Literally about 7 weeks ago, probably, right? Just goes by super quick, right? Because you're right. I mean, as adults, especially as business owners, as parents, so many things going on, right? Days fly by like they're nothing. And before you know it, 7 weeks is gone. So I like that framework that it's, again, I think there's something to knowing when it starts, knowing when it ends, but also then being able to experience it in the middle and get those big impacts.
Yeah. I really love the way that the positive intelligence thing was developed. And I've been doing this during COVID is when the program was released. And I found out early about it. And I think I've guided, it's not about numbers to me, but I've guided over 200 people through the program. Everywhere from executives at Fortune 500 companies to moms raising kids with cystic fibrosis. Because they matter, right? Those moms, they're my heroes.
Sure.
So in all of that experience, like lots of small businesses, that experience taught me many things, how to do this really, really well. What do they respond to? What don't they respond to?
Yeah.
And so that's how this thing developed. I stayed in my, what we call our sage brain, the middle prefrontal cortex, where all this wisdom lives. And I just tried different things. Some worked amazing. Some worked okay. All of it's effective because you've got a thought partner. And then you've got the training to get that thing in your memory. So instead of those mental roadblocks staying in your way, you can move them aside quickly. A senior coach once told me early in my career, he said, Mike, if you were a lamppost, you would bring value to a client. And I didn't understand that in the beginning, but here's what he meant, is when people speak, it's jumbled in here. And as soon as they speak it, it can become almost instantly clear. And I found that out over the years. And like, I think when I was a kid, I would say, Mom, where are my shoes? And then boom, I knew exactly where they were. Where are my keys? After my wife, where are my keys? Oh, now I know. So there's a mechanism of clarity when the client speaks.
Yeah.
And so if a lamppost could just get the person talking, you're going to provide value. So, of course, I didn't want to be a lamppost. I, continually build skills, but as a leader, I think that's the lesson for the leader. You don't have to be a professional coach. Get your folks talking. You will learn so much about them. You will hear their values, what's important to them, what they don't necessarily care about. We just have to put on those ears.
Yeah. Love that. Well, I want to kind of wrap up here today. I mean, where is the best place for my audience to find you, work with you, go through one of these sprints? Where's the best place for them to connect with you and do that?
I think just an email, Mike at michaelburkecoaching.com. Be a nice, easy conversation. It's just so fun to talk about. I love learning about business owners. Like, It's always shocking to me how many types of businesses are out there and what they're doing and making and creating. That's just fascinating. So just a conversation about what they want and see if there's a match.
Love that. Love that. I would definitely recommend to my audience, reach out to Coach Mike, work with him. Really, really, really love the work that he does, and change your organization. So until next time, everybody, go accelerate your profits. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Net Profit Podcast with Ryan Kimler. Make sure to subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to check the show notes for our guest contact information and to connect with Ryan on his website, netprofitcfo.com.